Hi and welcome to our program. Today we are checking out the art exhibition The North Sea Lake by Sarah Caputo and Brenda Unwin. So follow us for a talk with the artists and a guided tour here at Godsbaden. Follow me.
And so here they are, yes, and we hung them at this height so people could try them out. You know, they could have a go at shaking hands. And we were so lucky with the technician here who managed to hang them for us like this. I mean, we have had such great help from people here.
Yeah, this seems a lot of work.
Yeah, because we had no idea how we were going to display them when we arrived. Because of COVID, we couldn't come backwards and forwards and look at the space or do anything. So it was very much on the hoof. But they from the word go, they've been so enthusiastic about this project and about helping us display it at its best that it's just come together, and we're really pleased with it.
So good. Would you like to add something about the boats?
Yes. So we've got more boats here. But what we liked about, well, originally we were in Copenhagen Museum, and we've discovered we were shown some artifacts, and we've had such help from people all over Denmark. We wrote to museums in England and didn't get a reply even.
Really?
Whereas we wrote to Copenhagen Museum, Viborg, several museums, of course Mosaik, and instantly we got a reply from like the curator of the museum offering to show us around, and not just spending 5 or 10 minutes with us. At Copenhagen they spent 3 hours with us, showing us books in the archives that they'd selected specially to show us. It was so thrilling for us and so unusual for us to have that level of interest from people who...
So you don't really have that in England?
In England we have a much more sort of class system where people who are more highly educated tend not to... I think they tend to be... I'm sorry, this is sounding terrible. But they tend to be in a kind of remote world of their own where they don't necessarily communicate with other people. There are efforts in England to bring art and science together, but it doesn't seem to be as common. And art is seen as a kind of fringe thing that people do as a hobby, whereas here, art is a very proud, Danes are proud of art and culture and promote it completely, whereas in England it's seen much more as sort of a bit of a hobby that people do, you know, and an escape from working properly. So there we were at Copenhagen, being shown around all the exhibits, and there was one exhibit of a hoard of little gold leaf boats that had been found, and that inspired us as well to think about the boats and their significance in travel and exchange, and inspired us to make these boats. But also we like the idea that they look like a shoal of fish as well, and just that, you know, crisscrossing, just gives that very much that idea of crisscrossing and taking things with you when you're crisscrossing. So we, as I said earlier, we sort of threaded them through the whole thing to give that extra idea of integration.
Yeah, everything is connected.
Exactly, yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what is this piece about, Brenda?
This is part of a series of drawings based on cloth and the unravelling of cloth, the sort of distressed nature of the surface, the way it's coming apart and aged. And when we were at Viborg Museum, they found fragments of cloth, fragments of a shirt, underneath these enormous posts which formed a 17-metre fence, if you like, around the settlement at Viborg. Each post was 60 by 50, you know, massive. And so these cloths were brought out of this boggy landscape, and I wanted to do something that didn't say, look, I was a shirt or I was a tunic. I wanted to do something which moved in close to the cloth and gave a sense of also not only the things unravelling and the age, but also they could be interpreted as landscape, you know, as aerial landscape. When you look at these sort of shapes, you see field shapes as well, or you can do.
Maybe
and so the dark areas are kind of like behind, and the surface of the cloth is the white and the creamy colours. And they're done with, if you're interested, with oil pastel and pencil and watercolour primarily. So kind of very, very intuitively, just an idea and seeing where it will take me.
So you didn't have like the cloth right next to you, it was just your mind?
No, that would have been too restricting. You know, you'd get too obsessed with copying it and getting it right. This was more to evoke the idea of that distressed cloth. Okay.
Yes, then we can move to the next one.
This length of textile is 7 metres long, and it was printed at the studio in Norwich, and it's full of things that we discovered when we did our 2000 year of immigration into Norfolk project. So there are lots of artifacts here that we've seen in museums in East Anglia. We went to a series of,
It's like about the details.
Yes, we went to a series of lectures put on by museum curators about different aspects of immigration. So we see things like Roman coins here, bracteae, brooches. You can see there's their kind of centurion head on there, Roman centurion. This is much more of a Scandinavian find that was found in Norfolk with a decorated animal on it. Here we have a rune thing, here we have combs. This is interesting. This is the Roman roads in East Anglia, the main routes that were there. And also, as we're printing, we're not always having it the right way up. We're turning it around and trying it in different ways. So I'm just trying to find you a coherent one. We have a map of East Anglia here, this lighter blue coming round. It's obviously got other blues underneath, but it's repeated in different colours. This was what East Anglia was like in terms of the 7th century, when it was regarded as an island because it was either boggy with fens, like here, surrounded by water or with barricades so that the neighbouring tribes couldn't get in. So Norfolk itself became like an island. Then we looked at Roman occupation of East Anglia from about 443 to 450 AD. And this is a camp. It's called Caister Roman camp. And it's about 3 miles or 5 kilometres from where I live. And this is an aerial shot of it. We have a river running through here, but you can see the shape and the forum and the temples and all the things that were in there.
So this is how it was?
Yes, yes. Okay. It was excavated and you had this grid pattern, and it was quite a significant trading centre. Nowadays it's a favourite dog walking place, and they covered it over again after the excavation, but it was amazing to think that the Romans were thriving and really important there outside of Norwich. Norwich itself was just a tiny village at that time. These are things like horse decorations, combs, a bit of runic language that was discovered. And
does it
so
have
on.
any meaning, or is it just
it's the alphabet. It's just a complete alphabet there. And the colours, we thought, were very vibrant and evoking that sort of feel, if you like, of East Anglia. Yeah. So the pots here, like I think Sarah might have mentioned, from Torksey and from, where's that other place? Anyway, the finds in East Anglia.
Yes, a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah, so all these are kind of archaeological things, and we deliberately layered the imagery, overlaying it, firstly because it wanted to give it a sense of archaeology. You know how you dig down and you find something from this century, then you go a bit further and you find something from another century. So we wanted to use that as an idea as to why we've printed it like this. And so it gives that sort of sense, if you like, of archaeology.
And this was the first one to be made out of the 3?
Yes,
pots.
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
This fabric was is more based on the things that we've seen in Danish museums. So we've got things like where they and also where things are crossed over. So, for instance, Viborg. Did you say Viborg? Viborg. Around about 1018 to 1023, there was a whole quarter called the Artisans' Quarter. Silversmiths, shoesmiths, gold makers, goldsmiths, people who made swords, people who made beautiful pottery, but they were transient and they didn't really know what was going on. But recent excavations in 2005 indicate that this is where King Harold, or Harold the Great, Canute the Great was crowned in 1019. So all this stuff that was made was not for general sale or for the general population. It was just for the king's court. So he had the best of everything. One of the workshops there was that of a cobbler. And this is a little drawing of the shoe that was made, and here you see it on a smaller scale, which was an English design. An English cobbler was working at Viborg in the 10th, 11th century. Same with some of these other artifacts. But we also get lots of combs and razors being made there, here, these things. We've seen things like this in the Copenhagen Museum, this lovely little sort of sculpture. We've seen this kind of mesh. Again, it's relating to roots or to fabric. The colours, again, very vibrant, because we thought it was a very active time in terms of making, craftsmanship, around that centre. But these are not just from Viborg, that was just an example. We've got boats, as we've echoed with the tissue paper boats, which recur, and we've got these razors, all sorts of
These
things.
are also from boats?
They look like boats, don't
They
they?
do.
And they were in the Copenhagen Museum, but we think they're actually some sort of razor or comb,
Okay.
but just in that style of a Viking ship, if you like. Little boats here, out there would be. I think that's about all that I think I've covered most of the things in there. Is there anything there that you want to ask about? This little design came from Moisgaard Museum. You know, they had all the wonderful carving outside on a small chapel, church.
Yes. So before we move on, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, there was just the idea that mentioned earlier, didn't elaborate on, but there were ceramics, pottery found in Denmark that was English pottery from Stamford, particularly a water jug which was white with a green glaze, which is in itself rare in England but has been found here, and also ceramics from Lincolnshire, Torksey. So there's obviously great interaction and flowing of ideas and artifacts in the 11th century, but we've also found, going right back, that the coins were made, or things made out of bronze 3,000 years ago earlier, where the tin was coming from Cornwall and the copper from Wales, both areas of southwest England, if you like. So that even then, people must have been crossing the sea in these boats, taking all this stuff around with them to use in each country.
So what about this one?
So this is again an imaginative interpretation, but you may be able to recognise this is Denmark here and the coast down through Holland, Belgium, France. This is Britain, this is a bit of Norway, and it's the idea of these crisscrossing of routes between Scandinavian countries and Europe generally, with Britain. I mean, I'm not saying that they went in exactly there or there, but just that the idea that this shape here is more like a lake than an open, enormous ocean. And particularly up here, you've got the Shetlands and the Orkneys, which again, of course, the Vikings were very prominent in settling and trading with. So that's what this drawing is about, and again, it's done with almost like burning through ink with layers of ink and then layers of bleach, and the more bleach you put on, the whiter it gets. But it hasn't changed, so it's not still going darker or lighter.
It's still changing.
No, it's not changing. It's
okay,
stable now. It's got a slight varnish on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then to the next one. Is this using the same process?
Yeah, and watercolor. Yeah.
So is this one using the same process?
Very similar, yes, it is. And I've also got the addition of watercolor because I wanted to give little glints of color. And again, as you can see, this echoes the shoal of boats idea on the wall, and very much the hoard that we saw in Copenhagen. Well, they weren't really boats, they were more like strips of gold leaf, gold foil, but they'd been repaired. So these little lines are indicating where there may have been repairs. And they're not meant to be Viking longships, it's more the generic idea of a transport or a shoal or something. And we wanted, I don't know whether Sarah mentioned, The boats are made of the tissue paper because we wanted them to have a ghost-like quality, that they would glide through the water, perhaps coming out of mist. And that fragility is something I wanted to echo in here, but also give it a sense of strength, hence the dark ground on it. So the idea of these fragile yet strong things, this ambiguity, is what we were interested in particularly. And I was interested in, yeah.
Perfect. Then we can move to the last quote. So this is the more contemporary one, right?
Yeah, this is another 7-meter job. So this piece is the latest one that we've done. Again, it's 7 meters by 1.5 meters, which is quite a challenge to fit in one studio, because by this time the print workshops in Norwich had closed down and we had to convert my studio into a printmaking studio and knock various tables together. Anyway, we managed to do that, and we felt with this we'd like some more contemporary imagery, but also a little bit harking back. So for instance, we've got the Franz Mars container ships, we've got the power cable, the Viking link here. We've got plants that occur on both coastlines, as we saw in the worksheets earlier. We've even got some Lego and wind farms, and again the coinage appearing. Place names here from Danish and East Anglian place names.
And are these hands?
Yes, we wanted the idea of friendship, holding hands, and that kind of link again of movement between two countries. This is a bit of marshland. What was I just going to say? Yeah, and bits of Lego. And we wanted to use colour on this one in a different way to the other two, but almost to frame certain sections. So this section is taken from a photograph I took of feet on the beach, where they left traces, and here you can see the feet as well. So the idea of transition, of moving on both shorelines, was important.
Perfect, and thank you so much for the talk.
I just wanted to say about the colour, just sorry.
Yes,
yeah,
no.
This, did I say this colour is much more muted, because we felt that in contemporary Danish fashion and Danish kind of, I don't know, lifestyle, there's a great fondness for very subtle colours. So that's why we decided to go for these.
Yeah, it does make sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Then thank you so much for the talk. And for the guided tour around, it was a pleasure meeting you.
It's
Thank
a
you so
great
much,
pleasure
Brenda.
meeting you.
Yes.
A pleasure meeting you.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much,
you.
Sarah. Perfect. Thank
And
you.
thank you once again to
very much,
Godspot
yes.
for allowing us to, for hosting us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that was it for today. Thank you for staying with us, and we hope you enjoyed this time with the artists Sarah Caputo and Brenda Unwin as much as we did. See you next time.